This is a virtual reading of Conspirators, To Each His Own Agenda by Matt Gupta.
Chapter 34. The Marble City. Callisto screamed out. The pain was unbearable, and the herbal remedies were wearing off. She'd been in labor for nearly 10 hours now, and she was in a state of constant pain. Decimus was with her, but his presence was only annoying her. The midwives had been attending to her constantly, and the journey back to the Marble City had not helped with the pregnancy. It was now the middle of the night, and her screams could be heard throughout the citadel. Ignatius was sitting on his throne, his eyes black with tiredness, and his mood more irritable than normal. Aquila was sitting next to him, quietly ignoring his grumbles and nodding in agreement to what was being said when it seemed necessary to do so. "I would give up all of my gold to make her shut up," Ignatius grunted. This woke Aquila up, and he gave Ignatius a surprised look. "Isn't that cruel? She is in pain." "I don't care," Ignatius growled. "I need my sleep." "She's carrying your grandchild. And she's also the spawn of Seaward," Ignatius grunted. "She's earned the pain she's going through." "If you hate Seaward so much, then why did you let your son marry them?" "I told him to marry into Seaward, so my house can get the land that he owns, when their child becomes both steward and the prince. With my house in command of the southern principality once more, the kingdom can finally be free of their influence, a feat that my ancestors have tried to do for so many years." Aquila nodded in agreement. "General Felthor and the prince are close to achieving their goals." "Well, they can't strike against us without breaking the alliance of family," Ignatius grinned. "No man can stand by them and not feel the dishonor." "The prince and his men seem to think they're above laws and oaths," Aquila smiled weakly. "We should make a series of laws that punish them in more severe ways. Get the high priest to tie in some eternal damnation, perhaps." Ignatius laughed and nodded in agreement. "I like that idea. Alistair and his forces couldn't perform any military action against us without committing sacrilege. When the child is born, he will be attacking his family in so many different ways. Me, his fellow grandparent; Decimus, his son; his own daughter and grandchild. 4 times damned." Aquila laughed. "We should announce the laws at the next citadel meeting." "Yes, indeed," Ignatius nodded. At that moment Callisto's screams ebbed away. "Oh good, is she dead?" He was answered with the cries of a baby. "Oh lovely, something else to keep me up at night." Most men would be happy at the sound of their first grandchild. "I will be happy if I see his cock and see him for an heir I can call my own." "And if it's a girl?" "Then Alistair will have someone else to braid his hair for him," Ignatius huffed. Ignatius had his answer an hour or so later. Decimus emerged from Callisto's bedchamber with a screaming boy in his arms. "Father," he cried out in joy, "you have a grandson." "Does that mean I can go to sleep now?" Ignatius grunted. Decimus made a laugh-like noise and brought his son over to them. "Is he whole?" "Aye," Decimus nodded. He showed him the naked and slightly blood-stained baby in the bundle of cloth. He was a large child with strong arms. "He certainly sounds whole," Aquila said, chuckling slightly. "You must be very proud. The Father has clearly blessed you both this day." "Aye," Decimus repeated, his attention completely on his son. "And your lady wife?" "Asleep," Decimus said, turning back to the antechambers. "I should return to her bedside for when she wakes." "Does he have a name?" Aquila called after Decimus. My lady has called him Rufus, after her grandfather's uncle. The two men nodded and watched Decimus leave. Accursed name, Ignatius grunted. Aquila looked at him in curiosity. Rufus was a great heir to Seaward, but he laid aside his claim out of fear for his bloodline. He turned out to be weaker than a woman. Maybe your grandson will make the name noble again, Aquila suggested. It is a terrible burden to put on a child's shoulders. Ignatius twitched his nose. But the child's glory will wait until the morrow. I am not one for sleepless nights. There are other matters to deal with, my lord, Aquila interrupted. Such as? Ignatius grumbled. We've received word that Alistair has called a meeting of his bannermen in the fortress of Arlcliffe Castle. This will no doubt be the beginning of many. His bannermen? Ignatius half laughed. Clansmen, boy lovers and sailors. Many of those men don't even wear armor, but dresses into battle. I believe they're called kilts, Aquila corrected. Whatever they call them, Ignatius spat. His bannermen are little matter to me. They should, Aquila pressed. Each of Alistair's bannermen have fought in countless battles against the Golden King's armies and pirate invasions. These are hard men and veterans of great skill. There is a rumor that the Goths will be in attendance as well. All the better. The Goths have been a blight on my realm, but they are nothing without a vote from the citadel to assemble in force. No, Aquila continued to press. Alistair is to make his move soon. His bannermen are loyal to him unto a fault. If he asks them to fight for him without the citadel, they may well do so. It will most likely happen when our fleets are ready. Ignatius weighed this, then he spoke. How many men could he rally? Over 20 lords are on their way to this meeting alone. I would say anywhere between 30 to 50,000 men. 6 to 10 legions? Ignatius raised an eyebrow. It seems our initial estimates were off. We only have 4. Aquila held up a bound scroll which contained the numbers, not including the men that will be joining me on the attack against Gladium. Ignatius nodded. We'll make an order for the garrison to be increased. We have nearly 1 million people in this city. It won't be hard. I want legions ready by the time your force is set to leave. He got up and left the throne room, as if that was the end of the debate. Aquila took it as such and went to his own chambers to sleep. He found no such respite, though. The bustle of the midwives and healers seemed to be most prominent directly outside his chambers. After an hour of this, he got back up and headed to the library. He had raised similar points that he had with Felthor with others, and despite his reaction to Felthor's advice, many tactical scholars had given him the same advice, or worse, cryptic philosophical lectures. So he had taken to reading the ancient battles against their age-long enemies. Nothing had helped. No one had ever faced the pirates on their own land before when the pirates were in force. Many had simply smashed their fleets in defensive battles and then forced some kind of settlement, or watched the pirates fight amongst themselves. But he searched the dusty old tomes anyway. He did not know how much time had passed before he heard movement behind him. He turned sharply, a candle in one hand and his other hand on his sword hilt. "Oh, it's you, my lord," Cameron started. "What brings you up this late?" "The miracle of birth," Aquila grimaced. He turned back to the shelves and found the tome he was looking for. He pulled it out and let it crash onto the table. It let out a huge belch of dust and then settled. A Brief History of Kings and Usurpers. Cameron read the title, upside down. The book was nearly a foot tall. Ironic title. We appear to have many of those. What interest does this book have for you? Aquila chuckled, coughing slightly with the dust. I am curious to see how men could follow a leader to complete and utter treachery. Thinking of becoming a usurper yourself, are you? Cameron smirked. Aquila didn't answer. Cameron huffed, amused, and sat down. Anything in particular you're looking for? How the commanders inspired loyalty, Aquila almost repeated himself, but any exasperation trailed off into vague interest in the book. He had found the piece he was looking for, the age of usurpers. After the death of the last king, who was killed fighting the Goths at Adrianople, the realm fell into a state of civil war where all the different military generals and princes proclaimed themselves king and attempted to carve up the realm into their own empire. In the space of 3 years, 27 new kings were named and defeated. The war destroyed the kingdom until the stewards finally brought peace and stopped the bloodshed. Cameron looked at the book upside down. You might not find what you're looking for in there. This is the age of usurpers. If I'm going to find anything on them, I'll find it here. The age of usurpers was a time of coincidence, Cameron smiled. Men who simply happened to be in one place at one time and were named king by their soldiers because there was no other option. If you want to know about how men inspire loyalty, he took the book and spun it around, flicking through the pages without a thought to the book's age until he came to a time some 400 years before. Here. He pushed the book back at Aquila. The story of Kings Hathor and Himdor. I don't know those men. I'm not surprised, Cameron grimaced. Their story is both tragic and heroic. He summarized the story to Aquila, referring to the various frescoes in the book as he narrated. Hathor was the older brother and king by birthright, but Himdor was by far the better man, both a great commander and a learned scholar. On the eve of Hathor's 20th year in the crown, a revolt struck out, as almost always, in the northern barbarian provinces of the kingdom. With things political giving the capital trouble, Hathor sent his brother to quell the rebellion. Hathor, being a brilliant commander, crushed the rebellion within a week of his arrival on the front. The victory was so complete, and with so little loss of life, that the kingdom rejoiced. The men of the provinces saw the wonders that Himdor could achieve and swore utter allegiance unto him. He had an army of over 40,000 under his command. With all of this support, in addition to his copious support in the political sphere, the result was inevitable. The men proclaimed him king of the northern realm, and Himdor was forced to found his own empire. Over the course of the next 5 years, peace talks slowly deteriorated under the insult Himdor had made to Hathor by being named king. He took his revenge on the men and women of the Marble City until Himdor was forced to move in to save them. It meant that he would engage in civil war first and would be the aggressor. Despite the politics, this was a crime worthy of total damnation, both for Himdor and all who supported him. But nonetheless, his men followed him without hesitation. Their fervor meant that the army crossed the entire breadth of the kingdom in a matter of weeks. When they were a mere matter of miles away from the capital, it was discovered that Hathor's army outnumbered them nearly 3-1 and was much better equipped with artillery and had the terrain. Everything told Himdor to turn back, that only death would meet him. For days, Himdor puzzled over what he would do, but then, when he could not decide, he asked his men what they would want to do. His men were unanimous in the decision to march on, declaring that if Himdor led them, they would feel no fear. They marched on, outnumbered and facing impossible odds. They met Hathor at the crossing of a river, which through a miracle of the weather and tactical brilliance, they won the battle and half of Hathor's army was drowned. The kingdom rejoiced to have Himdor rule, and it was his line that continued until the last king of the kingdom. His rule was long, but he could never find atonement for killing his brother and usurping his kingdom, and before his 60th name day, he committed suicide by a traitor's execution of having his tongue cut out, tied in a sack, and then thrown from the top of the city and left to rot. The candle had burned low by the time that Cameron had finished the tale. Aquila shook his head slightly. A good tale, but I fear this does not help me. Cameron raised an eyebrow. Himdor already had the support and love of men when he started. I do not. How can I act in such a way without it? You can't. But you have most of what is needed. You will have an army, you have the support of nobility, and if you have victory, you will have the love of the people for saving them from the pirate scourge. You will not win a simple skirmish, but you will complete a campaign. If you are to have any chance, then you must have your story known to all men and women in the kingdom. Scream your victories from the rooftops and bury your defeats deeper than the tombs of your father. How can I do this with a single campaign? Not just with the campaign, Cameron smiled. You must ensure that all know of what you are doing. Ensure that they cheer your name as you ride out of the city for war. I need money as well, Aquila suddenly realized, finally taking heed of Turgon's point. Everything I have been given by others. One does not need to start off with wealth, Cameron smiled. You can pay your men with the riches of success, a bonus if you will. It's riskier than paying them outright, but it is doable. So much is reliant on victory, Aquila sighed. Did you expect the kingdom to simply lie down and let you take it? Cameron jeered. You nobility are all the same. That is why Alistair will win. Will he? Aquila replied coolly. Do you think so? I know so, Cameron smirked. Not only am I closely invested in their cause, but he has everything that a future king needs many times over. He has wealth, the love of the people, many men willing to die for him, a proper claim to the throne, the nobility, and a just cause. He has fought long and hard for the people of the kingdom to save them from tyranny and famine. He is one of the greatest swordsmen in the kingdom and has the support of all of the other great warriors. What does Ignatius have? Legitimacy, Aquila offered. He is the rightful ruler of the kingdom. His house has ruled over the kingdom for centuries now. Cameron didn't even try to contain his amusement at this. In the citadel, he is the ruler of the city. Take him away from the marble of his throne. He is just a man. His military accomplishments are long forgotten, and the people hate him for everything he has done. Famine, starvation, unemployment, they are all because of him and his greed. But none can oppose him because he gives the top men of the kingdom wealth and land. Alistair has been the first real man to stand against him, and the people will rally to him for even the promise of respite. Many will perish for that promise. Yes, Cameron smiled. He stood up and made to go. Which is why you must succeed in your mission. For many more will die if the pirates can rape and pillage our lands with impunity. How do I succeed? Aquila asked, clinging to the idea there was still some simple answer to this question. Cameron smiled at him from the doorway. Have the whole kingdom know who it is you fight for. Get the people's love and win the battle right. He left, leaving Aquila alone in the library. It took the candle to die out to wake Aquila from his trance. He looked around the library, seeing the dawn creep in through the wooden shutters of the windows. The night had been insightful, but it hadn't given him the knowledge he sought. He picked up the book and felt blindly at the shelves until he found the empty block. The sun had fully risen to illuminate his way out and back into the citadel. The midwives were still walking back and forth, all of them looking exhausted and slightly bloodstained. "How is the princess?" Aquila asked. "She's resting," one of them told him. "The child is feeding." Aquila smiled and went to his chambers. He only got an hour of sleep before the citadel was called again, by which time almost all of Cameron's wisdom had retreated to the back of his mind. With little hope of being recalled,